Ember's-Heart-04. Ian tried to decode the flashes, but his older sister, Trin, beat him there. Natan spotted it, sunning itself up in the mountains. He thinks it saw him and fled, she said, without bringing her dark brown eyes away from the binoculars in her tanned hands. Chaim Tavarin, another distant cousin and Ian's right-hand man, nodded in agreement and lowered his pale hand from shading his green eyes, shifting his brown and white feathered wings as he looked at Ian and waited. "All right, we know which direction at least," Ian said. "Tell Natan and the others to find it again if they can. Send 2 of them to scout its lair and look for tracks or clues, but tell them to keep their distance and not do anything threatening. It didn't kill anyone, so it might not want any serious trouble. We may be able to chase it off." "That all?" Trin asked. "Yes," Ian replied. "I'll try to shorten it," Trin said with a smile, as she adjusted a complex scope mounted on top of her binoculars and began flashing a return message at the distant Tixari. "Chaim," Ian said, "go and launch the balloons. Send one up to the lair along with a team of ground trackers and some spare mounts for the Tixaris. And the other, put it over the town. It'll take some pressure off Natan and give him a good place to send signals to. What are you going to do? Stand here looking noble for the locals? Something like that." Chaim shook his head, stretched out his wings, and took off for the train station. Trin continued signaling for a few more seconds and then dropped the binoculars to hang around her neck. Advertisement. "Natan's team is headed toward the cave as fast as they can go," she said. "He says he'll scout the cave himself and have a report ready by the time the horses arrive. I told him we'd have a balloon up for signaling before then." "Good," Ian said. "You should head to the signal tower and send a message to the barracks at Southmont, telling them to send out scouts and launch balloons. Father would probably appreciate a full report as well." Trin nodded and started jogging toward the tall signaling tower attached to the train station. "And tell General Jobin the same thing you told Natan," Ian shouted after her. "No attacking. I don't want any of our people getting roasted." Trin waved back at him but didn't stop. Ian watched her go until she vanished into the hut at the base of the signal tower, a stable tripod 15 heights high, mounting a covered platform at the top stocked with a long-range heliograph and a signal man to run it. A moment later, the signal man leaned over to listen to a tube that emerged next to his head, then began aligning the mirrors for transmission to the west. Ian turned back to gazing at the mountainside and prayed again that his people would be all right. One of village elders, a towering Shaldan named Isai, with cropped silver hair on his head and graying brown fur covering his face and body, walked up next to Ian and looked with him. "First time you've dealt with a Garagran, Your Highness?" he said in deep, rough Hakkat with an Outlander accent. "Personally, yes. The last time one came over the mountains was 49 years ago. I was only 12 at the time, but I remember my father's stories of the battle." Asai nodded. "I heard about that one. Burned a small city down, didn't it?" Ian nodded, remembering the field hospital filled with burn victims that his mother had taken him to see. He had carried water for the nurses for hours, listening to the screams and moans of hundreds. "My own experience is a little more recent, however," Asai said. "I was a sergeant in the army of one of the Garagran kings about 3 decades ago. Served for 22 years. Ian looked up at the tall old man, searching for the scars his fur probably hid. Asai nodded at him, tipping the great black bull's horns that grew forward from just above his temples. "Why'd you come here?" "Shaldan are farmers, Your Highness. Better at war than most, but only when we forget who owns us. When I remembered Kai's blessing, I looked for a good place to put to practice, and I ended up here. Found a farm, a wife, children, the Akalis. Never looked back." "Salshira is glad to have you, Izay snorted. "Just don't forget that, Your Highness. Half your kingdom came from other places, and there's more yet who might make a start here if you let them." Ian examined Isaiah's expression, trying to find what else he might be saying. "Are we keeping people out? I don't believe. Young Pennett's alive, Your Highness. It's not every Garagran that will take a whack on the nose and let it stand. Something to keep in mind." Ian saw. He nodded. "I'll do that, Isai. Thank you." Isai nodded in reply and walked away, flicking his tufted tail from side to side as he went. Ian considered the distant hills with a different eye. Trin came trotting back and looked where he was looking, then at him, narrowing her eyes and flicking one ear in confusion.